Hi, welcome back to our study through systematic theology. We are still rolling along through our exploration of Christian theology. Today we want to start a new video series on creation and providence, which the two of those together are the works of God. Creation is the work of the triune God by which he brought into existence the material and spiritual world. Spiritual aside from himself, of course. And then providence is the work of the triune God by which he sustains, upholds, governs, and directs his creation. These are two very important topics, and each of them needs a good bit of time to discuss them and to get into them more deeply. So in this in this particular video, we want to look at an introduction to the doctrine of creation. Now, there's a lot about creation we don't know. We don't know the process. We don't understand the depth of understanding and the depth of ability by which God made it happen. That's over our heads. So many other things are over our heads as well. So what we want to be able to do here is to look at the things that we can know, look at the things that the Bible tells us, look at the things that we can arrive at through theological reflection. Okay, let me just do a little adjustment here. There we go. That's better. So what can we know about creation? Well, Genesis 1:1 tells us, in the beginning God created. Bereshit bara Elohim. In the beginning God created. That creation is also not only the work of the Father, but it is also the work of the Son and the Spirit as well. It is a work of the triune God. So when we speak of God as creator, we may be tempted sometimes to assign that only to the work of the Father, but the Son and Spirit are present and working in creation as well. In Genesis 1:1, we see that in the beginning God created. In Genesis 1:2, we see that the Spirit brooded over the waters. And in Genesis 1:3, we see, and God said, the Word of God went forth. So Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are all at work in creation. Now, in the creation narrative of Genesis chapter 1, it affirms that creation occurred in 6 days. Now, this is a point of huge debate within Christian circles. It's an in-house debate. And that is whether these days are literal 24-hour days or not. That's a matter of debate. I tend to think that they are, but I can't prove it. And for me, it's not a hill to die on. Now, for others it is, and I respect that. It's just not for me. But we'll say more about this in just a little bit. Maybe in the next video, rather. We'll dive into the debate over creation and how creation occurred. But now I really want to discuss why creation occurred. What is the point of God creating? Was God not sufficient in and of himself to eternally exist without creating? Well, sure he was. He could have stayed the way he was had he wanted to. The point is he didn't want to. God does not need to create. God wanted to create. He is so full of love within himself, he decided to create something that's not himself, to love and to have fellowship with. Not that his fellowship with and among himself was not sufficient, because it was. He just wanted something more. And that's okay. He's God. He can want that, and he has the ability to create. I want to speak just for a minute now about what this means. The Bible affirms that God created the heavens and the earth and everything in the earth. On that, as far as Christians go, there really shouldn't be a lot of debate there. We also believe that creation is what we call ex nihilo, which means out of nothing. Now I want to take a few minutes and take a closer look at this, because in history there have been two really different ways that ex nihilo has been interpreted. The minimal definition of ex nihilo, all of us who believe that God created, we all accept this, and it's this. The minimal definition of ex nihilo confirms or affirms that God did not create out of pre-existent matter. Instead, he is the one responsible for bringing matter into being. All Christians of every tradition accept at least this minimal tradition. So in that sense, what it means is God didn't create out of already existing matter. He created matter. And then out of that matter created whatever he created. Now that minimal definition is okay. And we all can accept that. Now the question is where does the matter come from? Well, it comes from him. It's not pantheistic matter in that it is all a sum total of God, but the matter comes from him. There's just no getting around that unless you take the maximal definition of ex nihilo. The maximal definition states that God created out of nothing. That is, creation is out of the nothingness and is separate from God himself. Now hear that, catch that in there. It's separate from God himself. That is an operating axiom. That's an operating assumption of separation between God and the created world. Now, with what the approach that we've been taking in this series of videos is that the operating assumption is one of continuity between God and his creation. He creates for his own purposes. He doesn't create to distance himself from his purposes. He creates to integrate himself with his purposes. We're trying to consistently avoid the dualism of the uncreated and created world. There is a correspondence between them. Is the uncreated and created worlds, are they different? Well, absolutely they're different. But there's a continuity between them because the God, who is the God of the universe, created the universe. I believe this maximal definition of ex nihilo is dangerous. A lot of theology can be derived from it, including that mega gap between creator and creation. There is a gap there, but that gap is bridged, as we will continue to say, in Jesus Christ. And to make that gap so large really creates a distance between God and his creation that I don't believe is present. Because God enjoyed his creation, he saw that it was very good, and as he continued creating, he said that it was good. When something was finished, it was good. Day 6, humanity is the crowning achievement of his creation. We'll talk more about humanity when we get there. When God is finished creating, it's all very good. He looks at it and just sits there self-satisfied and says, "This is very good." And that's perfectly okay for him to do. And even though as we go on through the biblical narrative and the fall occurs, creation and humanity within it still show forth, at least some of that original created excellency. It's still there. Vestiges of the greatness for which we were created is still present. Vestiges, but it's still there. And so I think that a couple of the things that really we want to just re-emphasize before we wrap up this video are these. God created the world and everything in it for his own purposes. He created it to enjoy himself, and for those whom he created to enjoy also. That we could enjoy his fellowship and he could enjoy our fellowship, not that he needs it, but that he wants it. We need it. He wants it. That's I think is plain. Number 2, he creates out of nothing, which means he creates matter. He didn't reshape matter to make this world. He created matter in the first place. But the matter that he created comes out of him, not pantheistically. It's separate from him, but it's not separate from him. It comes from God himself. And we know from the New Testament that all things were created by, for, and in Jesus Christ. So Jesus and the Spirit are agents of creation, or I should say the Eternal Son and the Spirit are agents of creation, are present during creation, and are part of the creative process right along with the Father, which is why we can say that creation is a work of God. Another thing we want to emphasize is that creation is very good. Originally, it fulfilled its purpose. It is exactly as God intended it to be. And it is exactly as God intended it to be in that He is working in and with and through His creation. He's not the God of deism. He didn't build the clock, wind it up, and walk away from it. He is active and present within His creation while remaining transcendent over and above it. He can be both at the same time, which is kind of hard for us to understand, especially given the history of modern theology. So then that brings us to our last point today, which is that gap between creator and creation. Here is where the gap really lies. God, as He is who He is. He acts as He is. There is no disjunction between who He is and what He does. He is who He is and does what He does, and those are perfectly in harmony. And God is that way forever and ever and ever, and always has been and always will be. That's exactly who God is. His being and His actions are harmonious. Now, creatures, us, the world, rocks, dirt, trees, are contingent, meaning that they depend upon God, we depend upon God, for our very existence. All creation is dependent upon God for its existence. And creatures, therefore, because of that contingency, do not automatically act in a way where being and act are so harmonious. We do not always act in accordance with who we are. For God, that's just the way He is. For us, it's not the way we are. Now, when you throw sin into that mix, it's worse. But even before Adam sinned, he wasn't acting in harmony with who he was because he was listening to the snake. He was able to be drawn away. And that's something about creation that theologians have tried to put their finger on down through time. And I don't think any of them have successfully done it. And I don't even think it's possible. There's something about being a creature that makes us susceptible to things. It makes us testable or temptable. I don't even know the right language to say it, but it's something that has to do with being a creature. Even Jesus, who is God in the flesh, although He is creature as human, He was tempted. God cannot be tempted, but Jesus was tempted, and Jesus is God. So that's a toughie. There's something about creation that's just part of being creation. And I hope and I pray that the resurrection and the new body will remove that from us, and that we will then be as God is when that occurs. It's really evident in us now that we are under the bondage of sin, that sin and death have entered the world. It's magnified. But it was there before sin and death entered the world. It was there because Adam and Eve did listen to the snake. So, just to reiterate, God created everything. He created it for His purposes. He created it very good. And even though the world is fallen, it still retains some of that goodness. And God's purposes have not changed. And God has not changed. We changed. The world changed in the fall, but God did not. And that's something that's very important to remember, because He is the constant, He is the creator, He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And therefore, we are the ones who have been estranged. He has not moved. So In our next video, we will look at the debates about creation, or at least introduce them. I'll not put as much time into it as a lot of other folks do, because I see it as an in-house debate. The debate I see that's important is that God created, not so much that how he created. But that's for another time. We'll see you next time. Enjoy. Have a great day. Bye.